To number 5 now, we have the Pika Pika no Mi, and I ask you, have you ever been kicked at the speed of light? Probably not. And by the way, neither has anybody else in One Piece, because such a thing would trigger a nuclear-style explosion. Nobody cares about science though, because this Logia fruit just says, F everything, I am amazing. And I think it's safe to say that this is the fastest fruit ability in existence, completely revolutionizing travel, albeit in a very annoying way, because as light, the user can only move in a straight line and must depend on reflection or refraction in order to change direction, which by the way is the main reason why it scores a 7.5 in detriment. The straight line restriction sucks so much more than most people are willing to admit. But weirdly enough, the user can also craft objects out of light, which is an easy 9 for utility, and while being struck at light speed, even the One Piece world equivalent of light speed, is an undeniable 10 for power. It's a really great fruit, one of the best, but certainly not the best. And to continue finding that, we now land at number 4, the Here no Mi, our second Admiral Logia in a row, and I can already hear the complaints of how low the Manga no Mi was ranked compared to these two. Aka Inu defeated Aokiji, they'll say, and that's nice. I don't really care though, because the Here no Mi is far better in every other area that is not combat, which is many. As a non-destructive element, ice contains infinitely more potential and utility in terms of crafting whatever the user wants, so much so that we really have not seen the full extent of what Kuzan can do, because no single individual is creative enough to harness the full potential of such an ability. And unlike the collateral damage of the Manga no Mi and painful travel restriction of the Pika Pika no Mi, the Here no Mi really has no detriments. Just be careful not to freeze people, I guess, and if you do, then immediately unfreeze them, because they don't die, like they almost certainly would after being accidentally struck by magma. But the Here no Mi is a super cool Logia, and yes, the pun is intended. So climbing up to number 3 now, we have the Mochi no Mi, and heading back into Paramecia land, we find ourselves with one of the most unique fruits in the series, the Mochi no Mi, which is actually a special Paramecia. And that's because it combines the powers of 2 standard Paramecias, allowing its user to both generate Mochi and transform their body into Mochi, which despite popular thought is not what any other generation style Paramecias can do. Not Gaudino, not Magellan, not anyone except Katakuri, which is why this fruit scores so highly in utility and potential, because it can do anything a generation style Paramecia can do, anything and more. It doesn't get a perfect score in power though, because Mochi isn't the greatest of things to have command over. It's more Katakuri that makes it look so fearsome. And it also loses a lot of its potency when exposed to liquid, which negates the stickiness and overall usefulness of the fruit. Definitely an amazing Paramecia though. However, the true king of the Paramecia empire can be found in number 2, which is the Hobby no Mi. This fruit is like a greatest hits album of everything we've already explored on this list. Firstly, it will instantly defeat any opponent with a mere touch, and as such, this is another one of those powers that will topple an emperor immediately. So an easy 10 for power. However, the mechanism of defeat is by turning the opponent into a toy, which allows the user to build a toy army to do their bidding, much like the homies of the Soro no Mi. So that's an instant empire and an instant 10 for utility. Oh, and as a side effect, immediately after consuming the fruit, you are granted perpetual youth. You know, the ultimate ability of the Ope no Mi, and the reason why it is valued at a price tag of 5 billion berries. After eating the Hobby no Mi, you just become frozen in time and partially immortal for no adequately explained reason. And this fruit also scores very highly with potential, given that it was in the hands of a less than great user with sugar. And imagining the Hobby no Mi with a more competent figure is like an instant world domination scenario. And the only cause for detriment is the activation. The user has to touch its target, and in certain cases that might be difficult, but not most of them. Especially if you happen to be an unsuspecting little girl, or just unsuspecting in general. There really aren't that many people who are going to see an attack like this coming, unless they have future sight of course, but currently that's like 2 people in One Piece, and there's no guarantee that either of them would use it. So it is truly one of the best devil fruits in the series, right alongside our ultimate number 1, which is the Goro no Mi, which rather notably ended up with the exact same total score as the Hobby no Mi, and I think you can definitely make the argument to swap their places, but I went with the ability to conjure, manipulate, and even become lightning, because it is simply the most maddening fruit we've ever seen in every respect. You just can't watch someone as relatively incompetent as Enel wield this thing and not give it a perfect 10 for power. You eat the fruit and become an instant thunder god with no limitations or detriments for using that power. Now with utility, unlike the Nikki no Mi, this fruit does allow the user to teleport, and unlike the Pika Pika no Mi, the user can do so in any direction they see fit. Lightning may not be as fast as light itself, but it is actually pretty damn close, and at least the user has directional control. Once again, the potential is high because NL was not, the greatest of fruit users, but even what he was able to access and conjure showed an extensive range of fun and destructive things, and to cap it all off, it really has no detriment. It has seemingly no cost for using any of its godlike powers, and really all you need to do is watch out for collateral damage and men made of rubber, but that's about it. So welcome to the pinnacle of fruity party goodness in One Piece, and alongside the Hobby Hobby no Mi, the fruit that I consider to be the blanket best in the series.